LinkedIn presents.
Good morning. I'm your host, Michael Kovnat, and this is the Next Big Idea Daily, quick masterclasses from the best new nonfiction in under 15 minutes. Make sure you're following the show to get new episodes and sign up for our free companion newsletter using the link in the episode notes. Now, since you're a listener to this show, I'm guessing you're pretty smart. And supposedly, if I wanted to, I could actually measure how smart you are with that familiar metric known as your intelligence quotient, or IQ. But what about your EQ? That's your emotional intelligence. And according to best-selling author Travis Bradberry, it might even be more important than your IQ when it comes to success at work and in life. In his new book, The New Emotional Intelligence, Travis argues that understanding and managing your emotions and the emotions of others is a superpower in today's fast-paced world. And the best part is that unlike IQ, EQ can actually be improved. Travis will explain how right after this quick break.
Hey you! I'm Andrew Seaman. Do you want a new job? Or do you want to move forward in your career? Well, you should listen to my weekly show called Get Hired with Andrew Seaman. We talk about it all, and it's waiting for you, yes you, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, my name's Travis Bradberry, and I'm the author of a new book called The New Emotional Intelligence. Emotional intelligence is huge when it comes to success and performance, not just at work, but also in your personal life as well. We find that 92% of top performers are high in emotional intelligence. The reason is that emotional intelligence is a foundational skill. Emotions are the primary driver of our behavior. We have more than 400 emotional experiences every single day, and your ability to understand your emotions and do something productive with them is a huge driver of how you perform, how you act, how you respond to the world around you. When it comes to high performance, there's also another factor in play, and that is in your profession, you are already self-selected for having a very similar amount of IQ and experience to those you're competing with. There is a barrier to entry in most professions, and it's very hard to set yourself apart with your intellect. But emotional intelligence is a defining characteristic. Not a lot of people have it. Even fewer have a ton of it. And those that do tend to see they're just better performers. They just do better in the world. And so emotional intelligence is a huge driver of your success at work. Emotional intelligence is malleable and it can be improved. So what that means is that the brain region responsible for emotional intelligence is very receptive to changes in your behavior. And this isn't necessarily true of other areas of your brain. For example, IQ is relatively fixed at a very early age. IQ is not what you know, it's the pace at which you assimilate new information. They've conducted longitudinal studies where they've followed people from age 5 to age 50, and they find that IQ relative to your peers just doesn't change throughout your lifespan. That's because the region of the brain responsible for IQ or cognitive intelligence is fixed. It doesn't tend to change or respond to alterations in your behavior. Now, that's not the case for emotional intelligence. You have a limbic system, which is the place where emotions are generated. You have a prefrontal cortex, which is where you think rationally and respond to those emotions. And you have a very long pathway between those two regions. When you work on your EQ and you try to understand your emotions better, you actually increase the flow of information between these two brain regions. When you do that, your neural neurons grow, they branch out to each other, they increase the flow of information, they create new pathways, your brain actually changes. If you were to go to the gym 3 times a week and do curls, over the course of weeks and months, you would watch your biceps swell and grow. Well, your brain changes too when you work on your EQ. You just can't see the physical change in your brain, you just see the alteration in your behavior. So, a lot of people ask me, well, why do I need this stuff? And not only is it important, but it's something that you can actually change. So even if emotional intelligence isn't something that you were born with or you didn't learn it growing up, it's something that you can actually pick up and improve upon. When you work on your emotional intelligence and increase your performance, you can actually increase your income. And this is for those that aren't quite sold on that you should be working on your EQ. It's sort of one more case to get you motivated. And we find that people with high EQs make an average of $37,000 more annually than those who don't possess a high degree of emotional intelligence. We also find that when people work on their emotional intelligence, for every point they increase their EQ, we see a $1,700 increase in annual income. So if you happen to have a high EQ, it's going to influence your income. But even if you don't, you can work on your EQ and see these changes. The reason this happens is because emotions, as I said, they're the primary driver of your behavior. Emotional intelligence, then, is a foundational skill. When you focus on the 4 emotional intelligence skills, self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management, you are becoming a master of your emotions. When you do that, this trickles into everything you do. So you may not realize you're not let's say, working on, let's say, your fear of public speaking, or your ability to have constructive arguments with your spouse, or your ability to be a highly motivating leader at work. You're just working on your EQ, but it trickles into everything you do and say. It influences how you read and respond, not only to your own emotions, but other people as well. This changes your behavior. It changes so many things that you do that it tends to lead to, as I said, more performance, higher income, better results. So my advice is, look, just have a narrow focus. Focus on your EQ, focus on these 4 skills, just focus on that, and the rest will take care of itself. Your brain loves efficiency. And what I mean is that when you repeat a behavior, your brain builds pathways to reinforce the use of that behavior, to make it easier to do it without thinking about it. Why are you going to build a bridge, a temporary bridge to cross a river every time you cross a river, right? You build a bridge, it's permanent, it facilitates that activity. Well, the same thing is true in your brain. So when you work on your EQ, you actually build new pathways to make new behavior happen. When you work on these things, you repeat them until you catch yourself doing it without thinking about it, right? What that means is that your brain has formed a pathway to facilitate that behavior, and all of a sudden, you're catching yourself doing something different without thinking about it. That's the signal that it's time to move on and work on a new skill, because your brain has created an efficiency around this. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're a yeller, and when you get really frustrated with people in particular, it could be your spouse, or it could be your kids, or it could be your coworkers, you tend to yell, right? You raise your voice. You don't love that you do it, but it's just something that you do. Your brain does that because there's a pathway that reinforces that behavior. A lot of people who raise their voice and respond with anger do so because they tend to funnel less palatable emotions into anger. So something happens that makes you feel vulnerable. It makes you feel like perhaps you can't trust the person or the situation you're in. That doesn't feel good. So instead you get angry and you have someone to point the finger at. They're the cause of your situation. When people understand the anger funnel, they find themselves choosing a different approach, a more constructive approach, an approach that addresses the real emotion directly. And when you do that, it's very hard to yell. You no longer feel like yelling. And the first several maybe many times that you do this, you kind of have to catch yourself. You have to catch yourself in the moment and realize, bite your tongue, so to speak. But over time, you catch yourself, and I've seen so many people that I've worked with doing this, you just realize, wow, that was a situation that normally would have made me yell, and I didn't yell. I had a constructive conversation with that person. That's your sign that because your brain loves efficiency, it's formed a new pathway, it's formed a new habit, and you've mastered that skill in that dynamic, and it's time to move on to something new.
Thank you, Travis. All right, everyone, you can get a copy of The New Emotional Intelligence using the link in the episode notes. That's our show for the day. If you got something out of it, please leave a 5-star rating and a glowing review so others can find it too. And stay tuned to the next Big Idea Daily, because this week we'll be bringing you lots of big ideas that will make your life a little brighter. I'm Michael Kovnat. See you tomorrow.